Hello and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we're going to learn a lot of stuff, like, trust me, a lot of useful stuff that you will definitely use in any programming language that you're trying to learn later after this course. So, let's start with one thing first. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to implement JavaScript inside your HTML page. As you guys can see right now, I have an HTML page here and I have some code. And of course, not sure if you noticed, but this is a P tag. You already know that. This is an H2 tag. You probably know that already. But this is a script tag right here. And this is how we implement JavaScript inside our HTML code. So right now, I have a method right here that is telling JavaScript to display hello JavaScript inside this p tag. As you guys can see, I got the name get element by ID, and guess what? This is an ID here. If you will get something like class, then it will be something like some class name right here. But we're gonna do it with ID, which is something that a lot of people use. And of course, once you save this file and you run this file, which by the way, I need to go back and run this file. Just give me 1 second. Let me just take, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. And there you go. And of course, it come up to somewhere that I didn't want to open it here. So I'm just gonna get this down and go back to my other window just because I have a lot of stuff on the other one. Where is Chrome? There you go. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add this thing here, and there you go. So there it is. Hello JavaScript. So I'm using JavaScript to, and again, remember that every time I say print or console, it means display. Okay. So I might not say to display hello world, but I might say to print hello world. Okay. Or to console, which is the correct way to say, because we're talking about JavaScript. I might say to console the JavaScript, um, you know, test. So after this, if we change this just to hello, you will see that I'm changing this here. But maybe this might not, you probably might not be surprised, I guess, because it's only like hello thing. But believe it or not, a lot of things you can do here. For example, you can disable a button before people fill out something. Okay. So for example, if, well, I would, you can call this validation. If someone is filling out a form, the same way that we learn how to do it, and that form is missing a value, then you can use JavaScript just to check if that person is missing something on the form. And before here, you can do some, you can write some code here to tell like, hey, look, do not submit the application onto this person, fill out everything in this form. So you can just stop them to submit the form. Okay, and that's how you want to do it. Like, you're gonna use JavaScript, you gotta add it here. And when someone just create that, I would put like some kind of input, and I can say an ID, and I can say type, which is submit. And let me just click that. So once I click here, you can just do some JavaScript here, which is we probably might learn in the next lesson. Okay, but for this lesson, we want to focus on some other stuff such as conditions and loop. So let's start. Yeah, we didn't start, by the way. We gotta start now, the lesson. I just want you guys to see how to add some JavaScript into your HTML page. Right, let's start now. So here I have a condition which I'm gonna use. By the way, I'm gonna be using this here just so you guys can get used to it. And a condition means like it's checking if it's something is true or false. But if it's something is true, then it will display something. By the way, you can forget about this for now. But right, let me just delete this. There you go. All right. So if you display if it's something is true, then it will go here. Okay. So let's try that. And I click save. I'm going to refresh the page. But guess what? What am I saying here? I'm saying console, right? So if I'm saying this, what I really mean is, hey, go ahead and check my console right here and look at this. See that? Wow, you have a really long name. There you go. So right now I'm using console just to display the name. And here, because this is true, my if statement is coming here. And okay, what I mean by when I say this is true or not, I'm asking if the length of this name is 7 or more. All right, and guess what? If we want to start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, you got 8 characters. So of course this number right now is probably 8, right? So how do we know that? We can do the same thing. I'm just gonna come here and say, instead of saying this, which by the way, I just could just remove this and just type that length. There you go. And if I click save and I refresh the page, there you go. I will get an 8. So right now this is saying is this greater than 7? And yes, it is, because it's 8. All right. So 8, it is greater than 7. So it means that it's true. So another thing is that we might be using is the else. And what I mean by else is if the condition I'm not gonna say, well, yes, of course, if it's not true. However, the point of if statement is not to know if something is false. It's just to make sure that something is true every time you're trying to run the if statement. However, let me change this Nicholas to Nicole, I guess. And I'm just gonna run this. And I will say refresh. It will say this is 6. So the length of the name right now is 6. And your name is not very long. Okay, so right now my condition is here, inside here instead of here. The reason I'm saying I don't want you guys to look at the else as a false, just because you can use as many if statements as you want. For example, if I have this, I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this here. If I have this thing, let me just move this here. Let me just clean this a little bit for you guys so you feel more comfortable reading this code. And let me just make some space, and let me just click a tab here. There you go. So if this is true, which is, by the way, this is false because I'm saying this is false. Okay, so it means that it's not gonna come here. Else if this is true, which is, by the way, it is true because I'm saying this is here, but also I'm saying else if this is true as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and run this code and see what's gonna have here. Let me just clear this and let me just comment this part. I'm not gonna comment the document because still it's not bother me here anyway. So I just click save, gonna refresh. So I'm having the beef. So as you guys can see in this part, once a thing is true, that's it. The if statement it just fall out. It's be like, okay, that's it. Like this is what you want. I already got a true condition, so I'm done. Do you see that? So that's why I don't want you guys to see this as, hey, is this true or false? Just look at it. Okay, once you find something is true, execute this code. And if you execute my code, that's it. Like you're good to go. And again, if I make this true, which is the first one, and everything is true right now. So this is true, and this is true. Okay, and I create refresh the page. Great, I'm having this right here, which is the first one, and then that's it. Like the condition is break right there. All right. So just keep that in mind. If statements. You can definitely use if statement every time you want to do something, but don't just it's a whole bunch of if statement. Like this is the thing. When people create program, when people create a software or something, most of the time they write a whole bunch of if statement. Because when you write a whole bunch of if statement, you have like so much control on your code, because literally you are saying, hey code, if this is true, do this. If this is true, do this. If, and if. So you can use as many if statement as you want, but it's not like don't fill out your whole program using if statement. But trust me, it can save you a lot of time. I remember when I went to school, and this is funny. My professor make me ask a question, right? He say, I want you to write a program that I just gonna reserve his last name, just in case. I don't want to get like sued by him or something like that. But imagine that his last name was, I don't know. I will say John, right? So he told me the exam, that was a final exam, and he say, I want you guys to write a program to reverse any name. And then he say for the sample, and then he say his last name, and then he say the program will return something like this. Okay, so NHOJ. All right, so the program will take this as an input, and it will return this as an output. So every time that I was like looking at his name, if his last name was John, I would definitely like console something. Well, in Java it was system print out, but here just like console.log, and then I will just say like NHOJ. All right, but not just like this. I was like putting like a whole bunch of if statement, and then I will say, well, if the first letter, for example, I was using something that was, like taking the user input, and for example here I will have this name, okay, and because I'm assuming I know the input like this, I was like, that you can do this, right? Like you can do something like this. By the way, I didn't put a name, but I'm gonna just put a name, and then you can do something like this, Sarah. Okay, and then I'm just gonna create, and then I will get the J. You see that? So I was like getting each one using if statement, like something like this, like if it is equal to J, then do this. I was adding the string to another variable, so I was returning returning the name in reverse, just like NHOJ. However, and again, I was assuming that the name was only John and not like any name. However, he was expecting me to do it for any name, but I remember he say, oh, well, I wasn't expecting that. So I believe that I'm gonna give you the point because I did. I was like, well, it's a final exam. You're supposed to do well. You gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, I put a whole bunch of if statement, and it was very fun. Anyway, so let me see. Let me see. What did I end? Okay, so if else is 7. So now we are going to let me delete this because we don't need this. Oh, what did I do? Okay, let me just delete this part. Let me delete this because we finished this. While loop. So while loop is what it is. While the condition is true, just do whatever is inside until if it's false. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put it right here. And again, let me just clean this code a little bit. Just put this with this, and then a space right here, and a little bit of space here. All right. So here, this is how you write a while loop. And again, if this condition is true, do this, and then increment the number, just to make sure. However, like the same way that we do here, shift counters means 0. So is 0 less than 10? Yes, it is true. So do this. And now increment this, which is what? 0. Now it's going to be 1. Now it's going to go back. It is 1 less than 10. Well, it is. All right, again, do this. And then increment the 1, now increment to 2. It is 2 less than 10. And so on up to 9. And then it will say it is 9 less than 10. Yes, it is. So it will print that, and then it will increment the number, and it will say it is 10 less than 10. And then that's going to be like, okay, you know what? They are the same. So it is now greater than 10, but it's not less. So it means that this is not true. And the variable, it will definitely stop here. The whole while loop, it will stop here. And then it will just print whatever was coming after this. For example, this right here. If I just go ahead, this is gonna do. It's gonna print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As you can see, this is a number, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and up to 9. And then at the end, I'm saying, like sleeping. And there you go. This is how you do a while loop. Pretty easy, very convenient. You don't have to do much, but up to you if you want to use the while loop or the for loop. So let me show you the for loop now. Let me just comment this thing out. And again, don't forget we are inside an HTML file. Okay, so let me just go for the for loop. The for loop, we can do the same thing as we did. The only thing is that you need to keep in mind a few things. For example, the for loop, you're gonna start here by declaring the number instead of here, which is outside. Then it will do the condition if this number is less than this number, which is right here. And then you will increment after you execute this line. Then you come here and increment this number, which is, by the way, let me just make, all right, there you go. And then you will increment that, and it will do it the same thing up to it has, less than 10 or equal to 10. But the equal number, the number 10, it will not work, by the way. So if I want to do this, there you go. So I still have the same thing. Okay, I'm just gonna comment this out, and I'm gonna do both. There you go. So you have 0 to 9 Z, and then you have 0 to 9 and Z right here. Okay, so let me just go back and comment both. There you go. Okay, so now let me just delete this. How will you use an array and a loop? How convenient is that? Well, Do you guys remember that when we have an array, let me just make sure I move this and this and this, all right, okay, and then do this. And we have the array right here. Okay, let me just make it a little bit, you know what, just let me increase the size anyway. All right, so now my condition, instead of being this number here, it will be this, this number here. Instead of 10, I will get the length of this array, which is animal. So just keep that in mind that when we have, let me just declare the array here. And once we have this, and you want to access to one of these animal, the way that you have to do is by adding the index number. You see that? So this is 1. Remember, you start at 0, but if I want, so 0, 1, 2, and 3, I can put a 3, and then, and so on, okay? So this is how you do it, like without using a for loop. However, if you want to display everything in in an array, the way that you do it is same thing. You have the variable name, the number, which is start at 0, and then if it's this 0 less than the number of items inside this array. By the way, there's something. All right, there you go. How many items do you have in this array? So you do basically the same thing, okay? And of course, instead of me saying the name of the array plus the index number, I'm just gonna go ahead and say I, because I, it will be what? A number, as you can see. So this is gonna be 0, then it's gonna be 1, then it's gonna be 2, then it's gonna be 3. Until this number becomes more than the number of elements that we have in this array, and then it will definitely stop. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and run this thing, and there you go. Okay, so we have 0, 1, and 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So if we want to, okay, let me just delete this. All right, so last one. Oh, wow, that was fast. Last one is this loop. Few things to keep in mind here, though. The first thing that you have to keep in mind is, of course, this is the loop that I will definitely put on this amp. Okay, as you could see, these loops are like baby stuff. Like you already know this since day one, because every time we talk about JavaScript, I always, not always, but most of the time I put some loops, and you guys realize that this is super easy. Hey, okay, can you write a for loop to display everything inside an array? Of course, you just need to write this. Very easy. However, a for loop not always start at 0. Okay, a for loop not always increment the number by only 1. Okay, you can do it as many times as you want. So we're gonna, here we printing the power of the number up to less than 10,000, which is here. Okay, so everything, our for loop can also look exactly like this. Keep that in mind, that a for loop can have a whole bunch of stuff. And of course, guess what? A for loop can also have another for loop inside the for loop. How about that? Let me just say hello here. There you go. All right. Let me just close my for loop. I'm closing this for loop, and I'm just gonna go ahead. All right, there you go. So I can also have something like this. I can make something happen, and then look at what happened. And of course, I need this to be there, because if it's not, it will definitely say, hey, error, you are not declaring this animal thing. So you guys can see something like this. Yeah, probably something like this. And again, this is not about only JavaScript. This is something that you can do in any programming language. Okay, so don't just learn this just because you will definitely use it at any programming language that you're trying to learn in the future. So this is very important. Let me just run this and see if it works. As you guys can see, I didn't test this before. So what we're supposed to get is, I will say how many hello. Let's see. Let me see. Hello. I will say hi just because to see how many. I believe like 4, and then this. Let's see what happened. So I'm closing this. There you go. So let's go from the top. Now from the top. There you go. All right. So I'm getting inside my for loop, and remember that I told you that it will always run the code first. It will check the condition, and then it will, it will come here and run this code first. So what's going on here is saying, okay, so run this code. Once you run this code, basically this code is saying go over this many times, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Because remember, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 animals. So once it's finished this, now print x. Now x is 2. Remember, x is start at 2. Now guess what? Increase that number 2 times 2, which is 4. Now x is equal to 4. And now is this 4 less than 10,000? Yes, it is. So guess what? Do the same. Run the for loop. Run the for loop. Guess what? What's the for loop saying? Do this 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now it's gonna go to 4. So it is how now is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So now x is equal to 8. Is 8 less than 10,000? Yes, it is. So do that again. Now you're gonna finish that again. You see the point? So the thing is that, look at this. This for loop, we always do whatever is here first. If inside this for loop there is another for loop that is saying do this several amounts of time, then the second for loop we finish first, and then it will go back to the first for loop. Okay, just keep that in mind. This is how we're reading this code. It's just like this is a for loop. I'm coming in here, do whatever is here, and guess what? Here I have a for loop. So do this amounts of time. Console hello the number this amount of time up to you get less than this number. So that's all for this lesson. I hope you learned something about for loop and while loops, because this is the whole point of this lesson. Honestly, I do not care if you learn about the HTML part, because we didn't do much in this lesson. I do care that you will learn a lot in the next lesson, because we're going to talk about that later. But for this lesson, I want you guys to focus on for loop and while loop. Right? So I will see you in the next lesson.